You know what I think Biden should do? This is my hot take for the episode.
All right.
I think Biden should pardon him for this one.
Recording in progress.
Recording is in progress.
Recording is in progress.
Yeah, you scared me there for a second. I thought you disappeared. I thought the recording ate you.
Well, I realized I'm like, oh, the thing is gonna come up and I have to accept it. So you
Oh,
just,
right.
you just pulled the trigger on that and I had to like pull my
I
phone
forgot.
awkwardly, quickly out of my pocket, almost drop it and then open it and then hit got it.
Right. I forget that I forgot I forgot my privilege as the host. I forgot that like it's difficult for those of you who are the non-hosts, just the guests.
Yeah,
Um,
check your privilege there, guy.
yeah, I will check my privilege at the virtual door.
Yeah, check your privilege
Um,
at the door, bro.
oh man. Oh, another thing that we could talk about actually, and because we were talking about what we could talk about before we started the recording in progress.
Mm.
You had texted me. This is it. We just got our first Trump verdict.
Oh yes.
And you had texted me kind of my thoughts on that, and I've kind of, I gave you my initial instinct was, which was, I think it was just like, I don't really think anything's going to come of it. Is that what I
Mhm.
said? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I still think that, but I've, gone and done some reading and listened to my, talking heads that I trust and, the blah, 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 and kind of like expose myself to a few perspectives. Um, and yeah, I think the general consensus is that it's highly, highly unlikely he's going to do jail time, and and like really, it's probably just going to get up. It's probably not going to like. It's probably just going to be a talking point for the Democrats. Is like we get to call him a convicted felon now,
Right.
and like it'll get appealed, and I'm like, and like to be honest, like it sounds like it was like not really the most. It sounds like how Trump is like complaining about like this is a witch hunt and everything like that. This trial, he's got some grounds to stand on. It's not that he didn't do the things that he's accused of, but like apparently the DA is like trying out this like totally new legal theory to make it a felony crime versus just a whatever a lower level is. So it's
Misdemeanor.
it's yeah. So it's just or maybe it was from a state felony to a federal felony. Like he was really stretching the law to get him there. Um, it was like the first time this legal theory had ever been used. So yeah, I think it's I don't think it's going to help Trump, but I don't really think it's going to hurt him that much.
I mean, it seems to me, and I'm not well versed in these things at all. I was getting a little bit talking out of school, but just from where I stand and watch these things unfolding, it seems like it's the same thing as it was before the verdict. It's like for the one side, it's going to be he's a
Hmm.
criminal, and for the other side, it's going to be look what they're trying to do to him for political reasons. It's just
Right.
and now both sides are just going to have a little bit more. It's just more that it's
Yeah.
not something else.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it's like I think I think there's some people who are like, I can't vote for this guy if he's going to be in jail. But like, apparently, even just in well, I guess the one way that he could end up in jail. So, like, apparently, people who get prosecuted for these type or get convicted of these type of crimes, somebody did a study, and like 1 in 10 end up in jail, right? So it would be pretty wild if they suggested jail time for Trump when 1 in 10 do it. But the one like the things that they kind of maybe could take into account is like your behavior during the trial. And he violated a gag order like 3 times. He was like like
Right.
whether you think it's fair or not, like like he was Trump. He was not some respectful whatever. He was not apologetic. He was like,
Right.
he was Trump the whole time. So it's like if the judge or the jury or whatever like takes that into account, maybe he'll get jail time. But I don't think he will.
Right, right, right.
And maybe there's a few people in the middle who are like, oh, you know what, this is a jury that aren't paying that much attention. They're just like, you know what, they he was actually guilty. Maybe there's a few people in the middle that like it'll sway them against him.
Again, me as the layperson, to me it seems like when rich, powerful people are involved in these kind of proceedings or whatever, it seems to me like if it's the sort of thing where there's a crime and you get convicted of a crime where this is the sort of crime where that's what you do is go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, like you're gonna hire your legal team, like it's maybe he'll have to pay a thing, or
Right.
they're not gonna put a thing on his ankle. They're not gonna put him on house arrest. He's certainly not going to Rikers or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I think Biden should do? This is my hot take for the episode. I
All
think
right.
Biden should pardon him for this one. What a fucking political move that would be, Just be like, all right,
Wow.
because like I think a lot of people's on the left like kind of issue with this is like yeah, right, they are a little bit worried, like what I was saying a bit before is like, yeah, we kind of are doing what he says he's doing, right? um so if Biden was like, I'm gonna like go ahead and I'm gonna be above it, I'm gonna say this DA was a little too, I'm gonna pardon him for this one, because this is also like the least consequential of the different fucking trials Trump is facing. Like this is the lowest one. If he
Mhm.
pardons him for this one, it's like it'll take a lot of the venom out of the Trump snake bite. Like what will people think of it? And if he does get a conviction later, and Biden doesn't pardon him, it might carry a little bit more weight. You know?
Right, but it might do something to alleviate this is politically motivated, this is the Biden administration doing whatever, whatever. He could issue a pardon so that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, we're gonna go head to head on this election, but
Right.
everyone will also still know that he was convicted of it. Like that
Yeah.
did happen, but the left is not using the full
Exactly.
force of what they could. Yeah, yeah. But these are all. But again, they're all like empty little chess moves.
I know, but it's this little empty little chess move. Don't you think it would just? I would just love to see how Trump reacts to that, because it would be so. It would be like, oh, he would be like, how would he even say it would like upset him so much? Like how, he wouldn't even know how to respond. Well, I'd be
Mm,
just very curious to see what he comes up with at that point.
right, right, right. It'll never happen though, because there'd
It'll
be no
never happen.
justification for it other than just like, let's see what happens if we do this. They'd have to admit that they were kind of like just playing fucking board games with our democracy. So
Well, yes, that's true. That's very true. Which they are just playing board games with our democracy, so it's that's fun.
they're just not supposed to say it out loud.
Yeah, exactly. They're not supposed to say the quiet part out loud. All right, so I think we've gotten rid of any listeners that are politically interested. So you want to go into you want
let's
to go
uh
into bilingual book club?
let's go into Bilingual Book Club, which I think should be the name of our podcast, really. But we'll see what develops. Let's officially issue a spoiler alert for Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah. So this
And
is
if you're
a
joining
new
us for the
segment.
first time, yeah,
Yeah, if you're joining us for the first time, I'm reading Harry Potter right now and then watching the movies after I read the books. And Bamis has read Harry Potter recently, but
but I read it in Spanish. I also watched the movies after each book. So I did the same thing you're doing, but I did it in Spanish because I'm learning Spanish.
right.
And then we
I
come together and we talk about these stories that I have only experienced in my target language and never in my native language.
Yeah. And I guess for me, it's something that I didn't read as a kid. So I'm like I'm communing with my inner child.
Well, same here, I guess, because I also didn't read them as a kid. I read them the first time just because it's recommended that you do. It's a big thing in the language learning online community to do Harry Potter because it's like an organic graded reader, because the first one is written for 11-year-olds, the last one is written for 17-year-olds. It's sort of the target audience ages with the characters, so the level of sort of difficulty, for lack of a better word, it kind of goes up incrementally as you go. So that's why I did that, and now I'm discussing this with probably the most interesting person I know.
Oh, well, thanks, Bamis. I would say I'm discussing this with one of the most interesting people I know as well.
All right, you flatter me.
Enough of the nice flowery stuff. Well, earlier we were talking a little bit about, or I was about to start talking about how, do you remember in, I think it was the second book, where I think it was Arthur Weasley told, or somebody told Harry, I don't trust anything. And this was in reference to the journal, which we didn't know at the time was a Horcrux. We didn't know at the time it was possessed by Voldemort's soul either. Because before we found that out, somebody told Harry, I think actually maybe it was Sirius, I don't know, I can't remember who it was. It was an adult. Somebody told Harry, I don't trust anything where you can't see it, where you don't know where its brain is. And I thought that was interesting. I kind of thought like that didn't, and actually no, they didn't. It wasn't in reference to the. I'm remembering my misremembering now. It wasn't in reference to the journal. It was in reference to the Marauders map.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, but then like we never, at least so far, I'm 6.5 books in, we have never really figured out what's up with the Marauders map, and is there a reason to not trust it? Like right now, it's just a handy dandy tool that where I'm at in the story, he's like, he's feeling lonely for Jenny, and he opens it up to look at Hogwarts and
right,
and see where he is. But we haven't had any reason to distrust it. So I was just wondering if there's anything that's if that statement was just a throwaway statement, or if I wonder if it was a foreshadow of something about the Marauders map.
That someone told him not to trust anything where we don't know where its brain is.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, where you can't see where its thinking is coming from, because like the journal in Chamber of Secrets, it was a journal that was possessed by Voldemort's soul. So it was like, all right, there's some dark magic going on there. So is there some dark magic going on with the Marauders map?
I'm going to, with your permission, speak freely and not worry about spoilers, because I don't think there's anything else that we learn about that map in the second half of the final book. But I reserve the right to be wrong about that. But I'm like pretty sure. Is that good enough?
Yeah, that's good enough. And that's like, it doesn't seem like the Marauders map is going to play a large role, because this last book isn't even at Hogwarts at all.
Yeah, I don't think it does.
So that was just like a little something that never paid off for me, unless it was a little bit foreshadowing of these Horcruxes and these Horcruxes that Harry and the gang are chasing down now. Chasing down now.
Well, I don't remember anyone. I don't remember who said that, and I don't remember that being said about the map. So what is the is this a question? Do you have a question? What is your question?
I don't know, Bamis. I've smoked some weed, and I'm just letting the
just let it fly.
I'm just letting it fly. I'm letting the synapses
at this point,
synapse.
Well, let the synapses go on and do their thing. You now at halfway through the final book, the last book, you already know who the Marauders are, right?
Yeah, so that's the like Harry's dad's group of friends. That would be James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew. Pettigrew.
Pettigrew. There's an R in there.
Pettigrew. Yeah. So, and and this is a map that they created, right?
Yeah, they created it somehow.
But we don't know how.
I don't think we ever find out exactly how they created it. I think they were just, I think when they were, when they were young men, and they're all men, by the way, I just realized when I said that, there are no, there's,
There's
well, Lily's involved, but she's not one of them.
she's not one
Um,
of the gang. No.
and it's not, but it's written by a woman, so that's interesting. But
Maybe she was trying to show like the feminist movement growing even in the magical world where girls and boys can be friends now for the Harry Potter, for the younger generation.
right, but
Um
she's not a member though. She's not in that clique. She didn't have a nickname. She's not a marauder. She didn't help create
no,
that
no,
map.
but Hermione in the younger generation is. So she's mapping progress through the generations.
Ah, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about that.
I mean,
I don't know if
it's
we're reading too
probably
much into it, but that is true that in during James Potter's tenure as a whatever, it's all dudes, and then there's a love interest, and that's all that she is for James. But in our current story, the people we're following in our sort of present, one of the main three folks is a girl.
hmm and she's specifically not a love interest of the main character,
That's true
um,
too.
which is yeah. Hermione's character does seem like an intentional, it feels weird to say it's a statement, but these books were also like kind of written in the '90s, so maybe it was. I think '98 was the first '90s and early 2000s. I think.
Right. She didn't
Um,
she didn't write stories about a female character. The protagonist is a guy and he has a male best friend, but then he also has a female best friend, and she's not a love interest, she's an intellect.
and she's the best of them all. She's the smartest and the best at magic. Like, if we're being
That's
honest,
right.
like Hermione is the most interesting character. I think just at like I almost would rather she have been the lead character because like she's Muggle born, so like she's got the most interesting stuff going on in that she's Muggle born, and that's a whole, political thing in the wizarding world. It
Yeah, but
becomes
she's
a whole
not.
political thing.
But yeah, sorry for interrupting you, but she's not a balanced in the middle character the way Harry is. She's also like Ron is a little bit too Ron, and Hermione is a little bit too Hermione.
Yeah,
She doesn't like to break the rules, and
yeah,
she's got a very specific pull towards a specific side.
yeah. That's
Uh,
true.
but
Yeah,
she's definitely the best wizard or witch or whatever. Partly because of her. I mean, it's her intellect. It's her intellect and the fact that she's the best. She's the best student out of the three of them. Clearly, maybe the best
hmm
student in the school. But the
yeah,
story does not follow her. It follows the person who is. I mean, he's also a powerful wizard. He's
hmm
also fairly intelligent, but he's got the devil and the angel on his shoulder, and she's very much to one side when it comes to almost
yeah.
everything. To the point where when she decides to break the rules, it's like, oh my goodness, even she
Right.
decided to. In the very first book, when she after they beat the troll, and she lies about the circumstances of that. It's like, oh my goodness, she lied to an authority figure. Okay, she's
Yeah.
cool or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. And then you see her throughout the series get more comfortable with it, with like Dumbledore's army, because she actually organized Dumbledore's army. And she did
Oh,
get
that's
cold
right.
feet there for a little bit once they put the new rule about, and like they kind of, threatened to try to break it down, but like she did keep going. Um,
Who came up with the what's the name of the secret room in English?
the room of requirement.
The room of requirement.
What is it in
Um,
Spanish?
I don't remember. um, But in the book, it was Dobby because Dobby and Creature have much larger roles in the books.
in the
In the
movies.
in the films, they couldn't always fit them in.
Yeah, which thank
So
God,
it's
Dobby's annoying as fuck.
yeah. Do you agree with me that he's the Jar Jar Binks of
He
Harry
is
Potter?
absolutely is the Jar Jar Binks of Harry Potter. Yeah, house elves are. I'm not a fan of house elves, and in especially in the movies, but in the books, I'm like, oh God, they're just like little cards. But they're for kids, you know. It is the reminder that I am a man in his late 30s reading a book for teenagers.
Right. Has Dobby appeared in the final book?
That Dobby appeared in the final book, I think. So maybe no, I don't think he has. Creature has definitely played a role, but haven't seen Dobby yet.
Where did you get to with Creature?
So Creature went. So Creature, like basically Harry turned Creature. Harry was like nice to Creature, and Creature ended up being a fucking badass house elf with them. But then what happened? So Creature went and he found Mundungus, and now Harry and Co. They tried to break into the Ministry of Magic, and they got caught on their way out. And Grimmauld Place was compromised, so they haven't seen Creature since then. And they decide, I guess, the last mention of Creature was, Harry's rationale for not summoning Creature for help. So I imagine that the Death Eaters have gone to Grimmauld Place and are trying to get information out of Creature, but I don't think that's any result of that has actually come across.
Very good. I really enjoyed that when because Creature is basically like an old school racist,
Yeah, yeah,
and he was so completely just committed to his ways, and
yeah,
then he was moved by a gesture
yeah,
because they gave him the fake Horcrux because that necklace belonged to his
yeah,
master, who was Sirius's brother, whose name I don't remember. Um, and we also found out that the that's how that Horcrux originally got placed in that cave,
yeah,
because Voldemort basically was just going to sacrifice Sirius's brother just to get his thing done.
yeah.
And so when they give him back his master's necklace, the locket or whatever,
He
he
feels respected. He's like, oh, these people respect my culture or my like way of doing things. Yeah, instead of being, they're no longer filthy muglugs and bloods and blood traders, because
yeah.
they respect his how his value system.
And so while they're planning the mission to the ministry or whatever, he's like, there are just little mentions of like while they're planning, Creature comes in with some like they're finally eating well because he's putting love into the food that he makes for them. I was
Yeah,
kind of moved by that. I kind of
yeah,
really
yeah. I
liked that.
loved that part. I really loved that. Yeah, that was great. That
That's
was very
something
good.
that's well, I don't want to give any spoilers for movies that you haven't seen, but I really like that moment. I really like that.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, I look forward to watching that movie. Yeah, I think I was gonna whinge a little bit in that, like, I think it was more like I'm like, when did so the books kind of got a little more mature, I would say, at book four, right? It feels like there's the first three books and the last four books. The last four books get a little thicker. They're more for the teenager versus the preteen, I guess. And I've been getting a little sick of living in teenager drama world. I think I'd
Yeah,
expressed to you in a previous message. Um, and it's interesting because I think I definitely relate more to a teenager versus a preteen.
right.
Um, but at the same time, it's like if you're reading through the lens of a preteen, part of the thing is like, oh, it's got that wistfulness of like, oh yeah, they're making dumb, 12-year-old mistakes. But that's, because there's a certain amount of innocence to it. But then you kind
Right.
of just get like sick of, you're just like, oh my God, these teenagers, they're like, it's like you got to learn how to control your emotions, man. They keep, it's like no more excuses for you. I start to like lose patience with the characters
Yeah.
because I've been with them
Yeah.
for 7 books now.
Yeah. 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 Same here. I mean, that's the reason that I hate Cho Chang, because like
Right.
her whole arc is she's just always upset about something and wants Harry to read her mind, which I think is true to life. I don't want to make any bold, sweeping whatever, but
Yeah.
I feel like that is pretty true to life. It's just
Yeah.
annoying, and
It's
she's
annoying as
always
fuck.
yeah when they go to Hogsmeade and she's just
And they go on
mad
that
at
date
him.
and she's just upset with him, and like the other couple is kissing, and like, oh God,
And
this is
she's like,
like,
"Oh, you're hanging out with Hermione," and he's like, "What are you?" Yeah, she's my friend, and she's like, and she's just always upset about something. And I'm like, all right, just. And I also like I never read the books, but I have seen some of the films, or I had seen some of the films, um, and I remembered that he would go on to date Ginny Weasley.
hmm
And so Cho to me, I was never like, oh, maybe this is going to be. I was just always waiting for her to finish her thing so he could go on to the Ginny thing.
hmm
So I'm just kind of going through these scenes with her where she just, she's a kid. She's hormonal and she really
yeah,
likes this guy, and then like but he doesn't
and
know. I've been there, like
yeah,
when I was a kid, I had a girlfriend that she was like got mad all of a sudden, and I had no idea why. And
yeah, yeah,
so I think that that's real. It's just, again, I'm reading it, and I'm in my late 30s now. Now I'm 40 reading these things, and I'm like, I just don't want any more scenes with Cho. I don't care about the
yeah.
storyline. I'm just waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to end.
Yeah. And I think it's a testament to like it's very well written. Like if I had read it as a teenager, I would very much feel seen. I would definitely identify with it.
Mhm.
But I think I'm also like as an adult annoyed with it as I imagine I would be if I was hanging out with fucking 17-year-olds, you know?
Right, exactly. Exactly. If I had
Yeah.
no idea what was coming, and if I were invested in the relationship with Cho, because I guess it's presented in a pretty good, like, he's crushing on her and she's kind of shy,
Yeah.
and then he misses his opportunity,
Right, and then she
and then
dates Cedric, and then Cedric
she,
fucking dies. So
yeah,
that
yeah,
makes that makes her even more emotional. Oh,
right, right,
it's
right.
like you
And
can't
that,
really be too much of an asshole to show because her boyfriend went and died on her. Like your first
right,
kiss goes and dies on you like 3 weeks after you start dating.
right, right,
Awkward.
right. I guess, yeah, if I didn't already know what was coming, it would have been exciting when
Yeah,
Harry starts to have feelings for Ginny, and it's like he tries to just push them down, because it's like, no, that's my best friend's sister. That's
yeah,
taboo. That's off limits. And so he
yeah,
tries to just think about something else, but he can't, like, then he's dreaming about her, and he
yeah,
really tries to resist it. I really loved after the Quidditch game that he couldn't participate in, I guess because of
yeah,
Umbridge.
yeah. Because Umbridge like kicked him out of she banned him from the sport permanently.
Permanently, yeah, in quotes. And then when he comes into the common room, and he sees, and everybody's celebrating, and he sees Ginny, and she just comes from across the room, and she just throws her arms around him and kisses him. I was like,
Oh my
that
God,
was a good moment.
that was a
That
great
was a good
moment.
moment.
And
In it,
Ron said, and Ron gave him. I remember how she wrote this. Ron gave him a look that said, "If you must."
oh, I feel like what my translation, it was something like, the look said something like, it was something like, better you than someone else, or something like that.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
But
I wonder
either
if that
way,
was like a
I don't know if I'm remembering that properly, but that's the way I remember that moment. But either way, I love that everything that needed to be communicated, like Harry and Ron didn't have to have a conversation. Ginny
right,
came over
exactly.
of her own volition and kissed
Yeah,
Harry. And then he like loses himself in that embrace for a second. And when he comes back to reality, he immediately looks over at Ron, and Ron just gives him a look. And it's
yeah,
like he sort of begrudgingly gives him his blessing by
yeah,
looking at him. I thought that was beautiful.
yeah. I thought that was really well done. I like that a lot. One of Ron's few redeeming moments. Can we all agree that Ron is probably the worst character in all the fucking books besides Dobby? It's like Dobby is Jar Jar Binks and Ron is fucking oh god, I didn't think before loading this up. I would assume something would come to me, but Ron is someone annoying. Ron's Kylo Ren.
He's Kylo Ren. Why is he
Yeah.
Kylo Ren? I didn't see the Kylo Ren movies.
Oh, you didn't see the Kylo Ren movies because Kylo Ren is like this, like he's this just like whiny bad guy. Like Ron's not a bad guy, so it's not the perfect analogy, but like he's just like this like two-dimensional.
I'm trying to think of someone I know in real life who I would describe as a whiny bad guy. It'll come to me.
No, you've got. I mean, we'll talk about it off air. I feel like you've got two prime candidates.
Okay, that's behind the paywall for sure.
Yeah.
That's no, you're definitely right about that. You're definitely right about that. What an indictment. He's like a whiny bad guy.
You're
Whoops.
like a whiny bad guy. You're like I feel like Kylo Ren is like it's gonna be. I feel like it's like an insult for Gen. If I was Gen X, I would try to make that a trending insult. It's this fucking guy's Kylo Renning. Um, you know what's interesting? Speaking of Cho Chang,
Tell
when
me.
I watched the which movie would it have been with with Dumbledore's army? The
Were
fifth
you
one, right?
surprised? Were you surprised to discover she was Asian? Because I was.
I was not.
That's
You were
that's a that's a
surprised?
that's a joke.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Her
Jesus
name
Christ.
is her name is Cho Chang.
Her name is Cho Chang.
I would have been
I
surprised if
was
she were
surprised.
Bulgarian.
Yeah, that would have been shocking. I was surprised to hear that she was Scottish. She's Scottish, right? That accent?
What? Is she Scottish?
I'm pretty sure she was speaking with a Scottish accent.
Like, is this something that's in the books, or is this the
No, no, no,
actress
in the
in the
movie,
films?
the actress in the film.
I don't remember because I just want to put like a little disclaimer caveat. Like to me, the movies and part of this is because when you read a book, you spend more time with it.
Hmm.
Even if you sat down and read the entire book in one sitting, which I don't think is recommendable.
No.
Um, we don't really use that word in English. Advisable. Um, there's a cognate for that in Spanish that is used, but
Is it
I would.
recommendable?
It is. Um, well done.
Should,
Oh, we should talk about comprehensible at some point. Maybe not today, but
yeah.
like your part of your journey for things, because that is something. There is like a corner of this where you're not completely outside of the world of language learning.
I'm
But
not.
uh, but I just to actually yes make a sweeping statement about something. The films kind of fly by,
Hmm.
and there's a bunch of stuff from the story that was in whichever each book that it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And also it's super blockbuster mainstream. So to me, after watching the first three or four films, I sort of like adjusted my expectations,
All right.
because after I spent however much time with a particular story, and then I go and I watch the film, you still don't know why I say film.
No, but I have a note about it at my next at the start of my next message.
All right, that'll also be behind the paywall, I guess, for
Yeah.
now. But like the movies are kind of like a sweet approximation, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Harry Potter light, and even though they do get darker, relatively speaking,
Hmm.
they're all still much lighter, I think, than
Yeah,
the stories in the books. It's a totally different art form, and it's also something that has to be appealing to the masses. So I don't remember what we were just talking about, why I brought this up. Um, but
um,
do you remember what it was? Do you remember where we're
I
at?
don't. I just remember I was gonna say something about Cho Chang in the movies, and and kind of like on this point of you have to make certain because yeah, especially as the books get longer, like I feel like probably the first few books you could go a little you had to cut less because the books weren't as long. But you definitely have to start making much bigger you have to start carving a lot more when
Right.
you get to books 4, 5, 6, and 7.
By the
And
way, I
one of the
think,
things, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you really quickly. I think what I was going to say had to do with the fact, because you asked me if I remembered, if I was surprised that she was Scottish, and I didn't remember that she was Scottish. I think that
That's
also
right.
has to do with the fact that, like, she gets like 8 seconds of screen time
Yeah, she doesn't get a
because,
lot of screen time.
yeah, the rest of her arc had to be cut for time, So
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't know how many times she even speaks. I don't know how many lines she even
Yeah,
has.
she's
Maybe,
got like 3 short scenes. And
but
one of the
you
short
go.
scenes one of the short scenes is that she's the one who betrays Dumbledore's army instead of her friend. Her
Oh,
friend's character doesn't even
I
exist. I
I
hated that
hated.
too because it made no fucking sense.
Yeah,
Like why would she? You didn't give that character any reason to betray them. In fact, you gave them all the reason to not betray them. Like maybe if you'd taken Harry on the date and the date had gone poorly, then she can betray him out of like being a bitch. But like
yeah,
you didn't even give us that. Not.
yeah. That seemed lazy. That seemed like they could have found a better way around that. If you're gonna
Yeah.
move, like, you remove Dobby from a whole entire film, then you make it Neville. Neville gives Harry the whatever thing that makes him breathe underwater.
Oh, that's
Or
right. Yeah.
is it also Neville who discovers or suggests the room of requirement? Who does it in the movie?
Oh, I can't remember who does it in the movie. It's definitely Dobby that gives it to him in the books.
Is it
No,
also Neville
I
who
think
does
it's
that?
Dobby. I no, I think it's Yeah, I think Dobby comes back. No, actually, fuck. Now I can't remember. I can't remember
I
now.
I know that in the book, when they get discovered, Dobby comes to warn them,
Yes,
and he doesn't do it in the film. And I think that's because he's not in that fucking story. I don't think he's in that movie. I could be wrong.
you. I think you might be right. You might be right. They didn't have the budget for Dobby in that one.
Right. Yeah. So then, yeah, the Cho thing doesn't make any sense. The fact that it was a
Doesn't
friend
make
of hers who was conflicted because her mother, like, I think they pressed her mother because Umbridge
right,
had all this power to whatever, and that just gets worse and worse.
right. And
It's
she was
having her
skeptical of
betray them, but
Harry from the beginning anyway, like because their romantic thing never like she wasn't a big fan of Harry in the first place. It seemed
mm-hmm.
like, um, yeah, it was definitely pretty late. It's like you really could have. I think you really could have just paid one more actor to have 3 lines. Like that's you
Yeah,
really could have just picked an extra and be like, all right, you deliver these. 1 line here and 2 lines there. It'll be fine.
yeah. Don't have it be Cho. Have it be any of the people who've been in that room that were sort of dubious about their allegiance.
Yeah, yeah,
I thought that was a poor choice.
yeah. Apparently, there's going to be a TV show. Have you heard this?
I have heard this. Well, they were going to do it, and then they were going to make it a more diverse cast, or whatever that means. And then
Right.
there was a reaction to that from all the people who need their Harry Potters to be white. And then
Yeah.
I think what I heard was they regrouped, and then they were going to do something else that also nobody liked. It's so hard to make a movie about a thing, it's like it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because it's like
Yeah.
this thing is really popular, so we're gonna make a film or a series, but like we got to figure out how to do it in such a way that's not gonna piss off all of these insane. Because some people are insane fans. Did you hear
Yeah.
about during the toward the end of Breaking Bad, Anna Gunn, who played Walter White's wife, was getting
Mhm.
hate mail, like the actress.
What?
She was getting, yes, Anna Gunn. She got death threats because people like actually couldn't distinguish. People were sending letters to this actor on this show because of what was happening in the story, man. Maybe there's more to it than that,
We
but
really, we really need the aliens to come and just wipe us out, man. That's insane that that happened.
it's funny. There was a when was it? Was it during the pandemic or a few years ago? I think it was the Queen or someone like the Queen, like issued a funny little statement about like, okay, so the United States experiment was a good,
Yeah.
noble-minded idea, but clearly it didn't work. So do
Clearly
you
it's
guys
gone
want to
wrong.
come back and like if we want to be reabsorbed back into the empire or something?
That is very funny.
That's a sick burn.
That is a sick, sick burn. If the Queen actually said that, holy shit.
I don't know if it was the
Um,
Queen. I don't remember who it was. It was something like that,
yeah,
or maybe
it's
someone
probably
just
like
made it
Pierce
up.
Morgan or something. Probably somebody made it
Maybe
up.
it's just a meme or something.
Still, sick burn. I'm listening to my history podcasts are all doing American history. I listen to two British history podcasts, and both of them are exploring different parts of American history right now, which is fun.
Be careful. Some people don't want us to study all of American history.
Yeah, this is definitely, it's not, you study American history and, you know, it's, we don't come across in the best light when we're so one of them's going through like what happened to it's like centered around the Plains Indians. Oh, it's like America not looking good on that one. That one's, we're not going to come out with all sorts of medals for humanitarian whatever on that one.
It's amazing to me that the reaction from the other side was like, they're trying to teach our kids that our country is bad. Like,
Your
all right,
country is a country.
your country is exactly. Your country is a country.
It's not an idea. It's not like some concept of pure freedom or whatever.
How dare you make any disparaging statement about any point of any of our history?
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
That was great. You said it in one beautiful, succinct. Our country is a country.
Yeah, and I'm like pretty, I would say I'm relatively patriotic as it comes, for especially I feel like our generation, we're not crazy about America. Which, America's obviously not a perfect place, but I'm relatively like a fan of it. There's definitely things that I don't like about it, but I'd probably rather live here than most other places in the world.
I
But
told
yeah, you
you
just
about.
gotta recognize we fucking committed a big old genocide to a whole lot of different peoples
No,
when
we
we
didn't.
moved in.
That never took place.
Yeah.
I told you about when we came back from Russia, and I just kind of looked around. And I was like, all right, this ain't so bad,
Yeah, yeah, it's not so bad, man.
like we're not. It's not. I'm not saying we're perfect, but having traveled to one or two other places, be it ever so humble,
Yeah,
there's no place like the States.
yeah. States is good. Where else have you traveled internationally?
Well, when I was a kid, I traveled a lot, but I was a sheltered little kid,
Right.
so I didn't derive as much as I would have if I did it as an adult.
True.
When I was young, because of my father's business, I traveled with him all over Central and South America.
Oh, that's awesome.
I say, yeah, I went to a whole bunch of different countries. Um, and I just whenever I think about that, I wish I could go back and do that now, or like
Mhm.
transplant my adult brain into my kid body.
Yeah.
Because I got to see some places, but I was, I was just like, okay, well, what's on TV? Can we watch? I watched Darkwing Duck in Guatemala, and they didn't call him they didn't call him Ala Oscura. He wasn't Darkwing. They called him Darwin, and I was like, Darwin, like the like Charles Darwin.
Mm.
Um,
And Darwin Duck.
that Darwin, but as an adult with a fully formed brain and some experiences that allowed me to actually synthesize information, I've only been to two other countries, and those are Ireland and Russia.
That's right. How'd you like Ireland?
Ireland is actual magic.
Yeah.
Ireland is like, we spent most of our time in Galway, and
Yeah.
we traveled a little bit through like the more rural parts of like what they call the Lonesome West or the Lonesome West.
Okay.
And we were really fortunate because we were working on a play, but we were also taking classes from the perspective of more of like, I guess it was under the umbrella of the English department. It was a study abroad program the first time we went.
Mhm.
And so we studied the play, and then we studied all the sort of surrounding dramaturgical context. So we learned a little bit about the Gaeltacht and a little bit about the history of the country. And we just met a lot of Irish people from different counties. And we
That's cool.
also and we also, this is right at the height of us. We had just started Benefit of the Doubt Theater Company. We had done a few productions, and we went to see a production of Tape, actually, by Stephen Belber.
Oh, yeah.
And the two guys in it, we met them afterward because they were just sort of hanging out at the bar. Um, this was at the Town Hall Theater in Galway.
Mm.
And over there, the arts are much more like, if you go to New York City, it's like you can go to certain corners of New York City. It's like, here's where the arts are. And most of the artists are fucking out of their mind.
Mhm.
And in Galway, it was much more just a part of the culture.
Right.
It's because if you go and you hang out on Shop Street, like you go to any bar, they're usually playing music, and sometimes it's like there's a group on a stage, but sometimes it's just like four dudes sitting in a booth, and they're all holding string instruments, and they're just playing. They love
Mm.
doing like traditional Irish music, and they love American classical rock, and they have like Irishy renditions of that. So it's super amazing, especially if you're in touch at all with the arts. But
That's cool.
after after the performance of Tape, we were just talking to these two guys who had been in the show, and they were amazing. Uh, and I was talking to one of them, and I said something like, "We're here on a study abroad thing. The core of the people who are here are also the core of the people who are now working with us in our theater company." And I sort of told him our story, and then he told us their story. They had kind of been doing what we had been doing, but on a more, they were just more mature and operating on a higher level.
Mhm.
And I said something to him like, we figured we would come and hang out with you guys and hear about your experience. And he said, deadly. That was very, I used that recently. So I think I was talking to Claudia. She was like, we can do such and such thing. And I just texted her back. I said, deadly. And I thought of him, thought of this Irish guy.
That's
So we
awesome.
went and we hung out with these guys. They took us around the city. We went back to their place. They were like living in this really, because there was a few of them. I don't know who actually lived in this place, but a couple of roommates who were renting this really nice multi-tiered. I don't know. It wasn't like a house, but it was like a big apartment. And we just
Mhm.
hung out with them, and we saw how much we had in common with them.
Mm.
Um, at the time, we were all talking in our Daniel Plainview voices. Um, and so, like, he went to the bar to get us a drink, and I followed him because I wanted to get that round of drinks. And one of them started saying something in Daniel Plainview voice. He was like, "Well, we're going to get the drinks, you understand?" And then so I immediately was like, "Well, we thought we would buy you the drinks because we watched your thing." And Max was with me, so it's me and Max and this dude and the other guy. And it's funny because it was a dark haired guy and a blonde haired guy, and then the two of us. I guess Max is technically a ginger, but the four of us were all
Dark hair,
talking in
blonde
Plainview voice
hair.
and just sort of vibing about all of our adventures in the theater, and it was there were just so many weird little coincidences. And then on top of that, you're in this place where all of the people, in New York, your average person is sort of average or whatever your average New Yorker. But in Galway, it's different. The spirit of the place. So and there's something romantic about it for Americans, for New Yorkers to go there. So I'm sure it's a part of it is it has to do with where, like, what our point of view was. But we were just enamored with every person and everything, with the food, with the culture, with the music. When we traveled around and met people from more rural areas, we had such an incredible experience there that the following summer in '09, we went back there and we produced a show there.
Right.
Yeah. So Ireland was definitely, for anyone who has the opportunity in whatever shape or form, if you have the means to go there, and if you have sort of an open heart, like, that's gonna put stuff in your heart if you go to Ireland, and if you just experience that place and those cultures. I mean, and it's kind of different from county to county. But it was, I mean, it was it was one of the most important experiences for me, both as an artist and just as a human being. I'm talking a lot, but
You're giving a great review of Ireland, and that's like, it's on our list of next places to go. So we don't have a trip booked in, but we are thinking about maybe trying to go this fall, if not next year. So yeah, I really want to go.
I'm gonna put you on monologue moment. Monologue moment.
Monologue moment.
I'm gonna put you on monologue moment for a mode. Scratch that. Reverse it.
Scratch that. Reverse it. Okay, what am I monologuing about? Shit. Have I started? I've started. Okay, so shit, I gotta bring out my notes. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I'll do my 1984 movie notes. I think a good director could do justice to the Julia romance, and the torture at the Ministry of Love. I think, you were saying that you didn't like the body horror thing, so the film may not be for you. Um, but I think, kind of how you were describing. I actually think you would direct a good 1984 movie, Bamis. It's not kind of how you were describing, like the leaves, him being aware of the leaves crunching and everything, like, just like his senses became alive when he's meeting Julia, and then contrasting that with the torture that he experiences, the body torture that he experiences at the quote Ministry of Love. I think a good director could do that well. I don't think it's I mean, like, it wouldn't be easy. But I think that emotional arc, putting an audience through that emotional arc, um I think could be, I think could make for some damn good filmmaking. I think it would be more challenging. I think it would be more challenging, like, to, like, adapt this whole the government is watching with a camera into a society that has cameras in their pocket. Because clearly, if you're going to make the 1984 movie in 2024, or whenever, like, that, you're gonna have to make a comment. You're going to have to be making a comment on, um, privacy rights and things like that. So you can't just put a giant iPad on a wall. I mean, maybe that's part of it, but like you would have to acknowledge that somehow in this society, phones like cell phones exist. So that would be a challenge, I think.
Do you think it would be a better idea to call it, to give it a different name, to call it like 2084
2084.
and
Yeah,
adapt it and make it, take it like from where we are here and make all of those concerns, like just ramp all of those up and do that version of it?
yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think you probably wouldn't call it 1984. I think you'd probably call it like Doublespeak, inspired by 1984, or
Right, right, right.
the Ministry of Truth, or something like that. I'm sure there's, and like you could make it pretty obvious that you're keeping as close to the book as well, as close to the book as you want to, because as you described in your note, like some of the things, the story gets a little bogged down there for a little while. Um, but the interesting thing I think you were saying is like your favorite part of the book was when he is reading the book and kind of discovering the like the history, or the like the discovering how the world is, discovering the rest of the world. Um,
Yeah, to
and
me
I,
that was, yeah, go on.
no, no, go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, as far as like hearing a story, the most enjoyable part of the story is when he has the affair with Julia and reading about his experience of that, because he does a really good job of talking about like when they're intimate, like what her arm feels like, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of those really sort of minuscule, like human experiential, for lack of a better or whatever, that was really it really talks directly to your heart,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really artfully done. So that was my favorite part of like the story, but my
Yeah.
favorite part of that book was when he reads the book. And the
Yeah.
only way that I could imagine a filmmaker would do that is by they would have to create some kind of visual montage when he talks about classes, why they're necessary. Like you'd have to have something visually illustrate that.
Yeah, so this is kind of my thought on the matter if I was directing it, right? Because it's not interesting. Like, you can't just film the pages of the book being turned, right? You have to make it visual somehow. And do you
Right.
make it visual? Like, do you go into his imagination? Or my thought is what I would do is I would make it not a book, but I would make it a visual, so I would like what I would do, being who I am, is I would take it out of a book and I would put it on the stage. I would make it like a play or a live performance or something that he sees, that you
Mm.
can cut the montage out of that. Um, and
Well, what
you
about
add to that,
you go on?
you
You
add
go
to
on.
that like yeah, you add to that if like if like the 2084 movie that I'm directing in my head is making a comment on like how maybe spending all this time with these little magical electronic boxes and like our entire lives running through them ain't the best idea. Like, part of the comment that I would be putting in that would be like, hey, go see a live performance. Don't just like watch TikTok videos on your phone. So it would be a little bit part of how I would adapt it to today is I would extol the virtues of getting your face out of your phone and doing live theater, or being with the people in the room, being around the fireplace, as it were.
I love that. I love that. So that when he opens the book and he starts reading, we can start on him sitting on the edge of the bed or wherever he is reading the book, and we can dissolve to what's clearly a stage,
Mm-hmm.
and like early cave people, and then people through the different periods of history, and
Mm-hmm.
explaining why class is necessary, instead of cutting to things in a sort of more cinematic, whatever, for lack of a better word. You have what's very clearly actors on a stage, and maybe you could
Mhm.
try to create quote unquote stage lighting by making it like sepia or putting it like a filter on it, and like their stage properties, the props and the set pieces can be made of paper and plastic,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
like and you could do some of that black box theater stuff where they pick up a thing and hold it, that that's them representing like what it would look like if you were in a theater and they were like in a
Right.
99 seat theater doing it. I
Oh
love
my
that idea.
God. All
I
right, Bamis, let's fucking do it.
I was gonna say something like, did you ever see the movie Howl?
No.
Um, it's a movie that James Franco did before he got semi canceled for being a semi predator. Um, but it's about a poet whose name escapes me. Um, and one of his most famous poems was called Howl. And periodically throughout the film, they would just go back to parts of the poem and you just hear his voice reading it. And then they had this artist who I'm going to refer to as an animator, but I don't think I encapsulates exactly what it is, but for lack of a better word, animator. Whenever they went back to the poem, you would hear the words of it, like, who scribbled all night, rocking and rolling over lofty incantations, which in the yellow morning were stanzas of gibberish, or for those who were run down by the drunken taxi cabs of absolute reality. And
Mm,
there were these animations of
mm.
these things that look kind of
Yeah.
like they look kind of like a 90s candy bar commercial. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
I I was thinking along those lines, but I love this idea of putting it on a stage in this film because there's this
Yeah.
sort of subliminal suggestion like get your face out of your fucking device and go out
Yeah.
and do something. Not even necessarily that you have to go see a show, but go
Right.
outside.
Go outside, like be with your fellow human beings, get your face out of your camera. Like you
Hmm.
could I'm gonna it's about time for me to wind it up, so I'm gonna go on maybe a little rant here and then we toast ourselves out. But like, you could really I feel like have you watched any of like any films or anything that take place in like Nazi Germany before the war starts? Like there was the movie, it was Swing Kids, or there's a Netflix TV show on now. But like, you get in the underbelly of Nazi Germany as it like starts to get taken over, and you see this really fun, sexy flapper culture, the underground party. Like you could create like this underground rebellious theater type world that's going on that you see in a lot of these dystopian period pieces, or like you
Oh.
see, I think you could really create that world around the theater.
Hmm.
That'd be fun. I think I'm gonna have to adapt 1984 when I read it, and I'm gonna have to start working on a on a film adaptation.
I think you need to start working on your pitch deck because I love these ideas. Because
Yeah.
to me, when I read it, it seemed like an insoluble, like, how would you make this something that I wouldn't hate watching?
Right.
Um, I feel like then the question would remain, how do you do part three without it
Yeah.
just turning into some kind of, because it's not hostile. It's not Eli Roth.
Hmm.
I think if you wander into the realm of torture porn, I think you're getting it wrong.
Right.
I think it's much more about, because in that one, the one thing that I did really appreciate about that part, I know you got to go, um, was like he really landed his points really well. Like when he talks about double think or double thought or whatever it is, it's like, how can 2 + 2 equal 5? He's torturing him, and at a certain point when he looks at him and he holds up his fingers, he can't even really see clearly. At a
Hmm.
certain point he's looking at him bleary eyed, and it's like there was one finger, there were 5 fingers, there was, like, he
Right.
starts to lose his grasp on what he's seeing, and all that. And then the most devastating thing is when he puts him in room 101 or room 100, whatever it is. And what happens in there, I don't remember how well you remember this, so I'm going to be sort of vague about it. I thought was it was really
Is it the thing with the
disturbing.
rats? Yeah, the thing with the
Yes.
rats. Yeah, that's fucking disturbing.
But it
Well,
wasn't the rats that was the most disturbing. It was what came of that. And
okay,
we can continue this conversation once you've reread the book. But I
yeah,
thought it was very effective and it made its point really well. I just deeply did not enjoy reading those chapters.
yeah. Well, let me pitch you how I would my real quick idea on how I would do his torture before I sign off here. What if he gets captured and part of his punishment is he has to be the like first guy, he has to be part of the testing crew of getting, the chip in your head. And so like he's got a chip in his head and they're kind of torturing him through the chip and he can't tell what's actually physically happening to him or what's happening to him in his brain via the chip.
I mean, it's an interesting thought. But I
Not very
feel
well
like,
borne out.
well, it's just, I feel like there's something to be said for the fact that everything that takes place does take place in reality. And
Right.
when they're able to do to him what they do to him, which he never thought possible. He believed so strongly that there were certain corners of his mind that no matter what they did, they could never infiltrate. And they do, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more powerful that they didn't need a chip to do it.
It's disturbing to me to think about how they get him to. I don't want to say exactly what it is in case you don't remember exactly what it is.
Yeah, I'm not remembering exactly what it is, so don't spoil it for me.
I want to let you discover that, but that was powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look forward to that. I ordered Jurassic Park, so that's next on my list. That should be arriving tomorrow, I think. So I'll probably start reading that. I've probably got a few days left of Harry Potter, and then it'll be 1984 again.
I very much look forward to being able to talk to you about Harry Potter once you've read every single word written. I very much look forward to talking to you about Jurassic Park, and then obviously revisiting this 1984 thing. And then after that, I'm assuming you'll get Lolita.
I think it'll be Lolita time. Yeah,
that's awesome.
We
should call this episode Lolita time.
Lolita time. All right. Let's toast out. Here's to gotta come up with a few things. Here's to reading, writing, and filmmaking. If you read, may you read a good book.
If you write, may you write a good book.
And if you filmmake,
remember Sammy Jenkins.
Jenkins.
It's not about the whiskey, sláinte.
It's not about the whiskey, sláinte.
All right, hail the Dark Lord.
And peace and love.